Gör det. And welcome everybody to Den Exploderande Rösten, the podcast and video show where I'm interviewing very interesting people in the world of opera and voice. And here in Copenhagen, we're at Ströget at the reception of the very distinguished Dr Mette Fog Pedersen. Welcome, Mette. I'm interviewing you because as a singer and to many singers, one of the most important people for the singer and the vocal artist is the voice doctor. And I want to start by congratulating you to honorary title at Cambridge. How did that happen?
They gave it to me because of my research.
Yes.
And I've been researching now for 40 years since I was a young girl. And we started with female voices. Nobody knew anything about the development of a female voice. So we made a big study at the Royal Voice Choir in Denmark about the female voices. Because if they get the same chance of developing,
yes,
they are exactly as good as the male voices, but just one octave higher. And that is a development that is going on worldwide, that the girls are coming into the fields of singing earlier. And nobody denies that they can sing during puberty. Of course they can.
Yes. Yes. Well, many of the best singers sang since all the time since they were 3 or 4 even.
Yes. Also girls.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was how it started. And then I was invited to Manor Choir in Leipzig and saw how fantastic they were and compared them to the Copenhagen Voice Choir, and the statistic variation of the sopranos was not small. So they had a fantastic soprano in the choirs. And I had
you mean the Leipzig choir?
To Manor Choir in Leipzig, which is 850 years old. And then somebody heard me there and said, "You must come to Chernobyl and study the destroyed voices of the pubertal children because of the radiation." And that was a shock. But to see how a voice can be destroyed, and we could document that they just had 1 or 2 tones left.
Okay.
And all of these 3 octaves that they had in Tomano and also in Copenhagen were lost. In girls and boys.
I think it's very interesting to talk about this thing, because very often we forget that the voice is the primary way of communication for human beings.
And that was a tragedy.
Yes. We often think about the body as something to produce a good impression, and we train it, but very few people think about the voice as something they can do something about. But you started your interest in the voice has come through a very interesting field of music as well, no?
Well, I started as a singer when I was a child. I was always the soprano soloist in school, and everybody said, "Oh, you have a beautiful voice." And then in my family, people were in the medical field, so nobody thought that Mette should be a singer. That was not something that they would allow. So I got my medical examination and was singing all the time. And when I was 35, I said, now I am a concert singer. Because then I felt that now I have the vibrato, I have 3 octaves, I really can sing a repertoire. And that was sort of where I started being happy. Because then I knew how I could, and I felt that I'm a singer. And then this academic background came also. What is happening? And nobody could tell me. No teacher could tell me anything. So that's
you mean what was happening inside your function of the voice, or why?
Yes. And what is music? What is voice? And then I placed myself as this Copenhagen Squire, where I had the best advisors I could get in Denmark.
Yeah.
Mogens Wøldike and his followers. There was an atmosphere of research and art that I appreciated very, very much.
But this combination of research and art, that's something that I remember we talked about in the symposium that you arranged. I found that very interesting, that so many of you said that it's so important to combine research and art, but to keep them distinguished. That there should both be.
They have different rules.
Yes,
there
exactly.
There are rules of art and there are rules of science.
Yes,
Science,
and they should not be mixed.
And that is maybe also why I got this honored professorship. Evidence-based.
Yes.
Science must be evidence-based in prospective, randomized, controlled trials.
Yeah.
If not, forget it.
Yeah.
You have to define what you are going to research on. You have to define the outcome. You have to define the power, at least 5%, and you have to calculate how many persons do I need to show two groups.
Yeah.
So my best friend is my statistician, and the next best friend is my engineer, because the engineer constructs my apparatus to measure, and the statistician says how to build my scientific research.
We can. I can just take a look here and see. This is the engineer's work. What we're seeing here through the camera right now, and that's. If I zoom in here a little bit with the camera, we see a rectangular square focusing in on the glottal closure of the vocal cords, and for you, that picture tells us a great deal of information.
It does.
Why is this picture so vital for the singer or for the person who uses the voice?
Yeah. You mark the vocal folds here, and you get the movement of the vocal folds, and you have the single movement on the right, and the left vocal fold in the middle of the glottis.
Yes.
And this person has a huge pressure. He's so spastic.
Yes.
This should be 0.55 in all three front, center and rear part of the vocal fold. And not like this, and the right and the left vocal fold cross over each other.
Yes.
And that is a real difficulty when a person has this kind of singing.
Yeah, and what for somebody like me who is a pedagogue, then I would say this has to do with the whole physical culture of that person. It's not only a mechanical function in the throat, but it's connected to the, as we were talking about before. It can be genetic, it can be hormonal, it can be.
So the genetic, in his case, is that he probably is born with a weak defense, mucosal defense apparatus. So he has tried to talk anyway, even if he all the time gets infections that were not treated, not diagnosed, because they were diagnosed.
So an incorrect dynamic has been normalized.
So that he could speak.
Yeah.
And sing.
So then, we were when I discuss science with the fellow teachers or singers, we often refer to science that's very mechanically focused on how the tongue is shaped for producing the vowel a, for instance, and that introduces a very mechanical way of looking at research. But what you're telling me here is that there's a whole body connection to the science that's very important, that you mustn't forget.
Yeah, this approach, with this physiological approach, was fashioned for a time.
Yeah.
But we are past this now.
Yeah.
Because we are also including immune system, allergies, reflux, not to forget, and of course genetic hormone
Yes.
aspects. So physiology is just one thing,
Yeah.
and it's mostly not focusing on randomized controlled trials.
Oh yes. So there's
Yeah.
not so much science.
No, they are made, the physicists don't understand that in the clinical world
Yeah.
we have to document
Yeah.
with this method that I just told you about prospective randomized controlled
So it's a
trials.
bit of a criticism.
Yeah, and they know and they get angry.
Yes.
And there's nothing we can do because
Yeah.
it is the doctor that treats the patient.
Yeah.
It's not the physicist.
Yeah.
But some of them are very good in some things,
Mhm.
but not all. I
Yeah.
have an example. Döllinger, who made this, he is an airline, he's a very good engineer. And I made a presentation.
What's his full name? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do, I can find it.
It's just good for reference.
Yeah, Michael Döllinger.
Michael Döllinger.
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 Dollenger.
Okay.
I think it's Michael Döllinger.
Yeah.
In Erlangen, we had a presentation at the World Conference of Physicists, Physiology, World Conference of Physiology in London in April, and I showed the single movements of the vocal folds, like this. Single movements of the vocal folds.
Okay. Introducing this to the camera. Okay.
And then I was asked by a friend there that which formula did you use? And I am a clinician, I had not prepared me for that question.
Yeah.
I thought that when Döllinger says it, it's okay. And I talked about something else. But then he said, well, I took that from the literature.
Yeah.
And that is an example of what should not be done.
Yeah.
They should know the formulas that they use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what he has used it for is the statistic deviation of these single vocal folds, right and left, from a normal one.
Yeah.
And I thought we could use that statistic deviation in the future to define whether a voice is normal seen from a vocal fold approach or not.
So that becomes very slanted.
So we have started with my statistician to make our own decision which formulas do we believe in, and to make a clinical trial
Yeah.
of how it looks and what we think about the patients related to that formula.
So the formula we're talking about now is a way of analyzing the movements of the vocal folds when they go on, come together to make a sound.
Glottal area waveform.
Yes. And the thing is that for those that are not familiar with the function of the voice is a reaction to the whole movement of the chest and the throat and the tongue and the neck and everything together.
Depending on a flow.
Yes.
I was just in Napoli, and if you have a real bad voice, the flow is disordered.
Oh yes.
And if it's normalized, the flow is regular.
So here we have a picture of a dysfunctional flow, and here we have a picture of
a regular
so-called regular flow. It's a picture of different types of vortex movements.
And this is known in science, but I want to develop this for the clinic. As well as I want to develop optical coherence tomography. That's also known. You can see in the eyes.
Can you say that word again?
Optical coherence tomography.
Okay.
And we are developing that at the Technical University to see 1.5 millimeter down into the mucosa in the back, especially the back of the area. This is the vocal folds, and this is it. And this is where the esophagus starts. And here we hope to see pathology. Allergy infections.
And the mucosa is the mucoid membranes, just like in the nose and in the eye and the mouth.
You're right. Yeah. And we are somebody in England will have this ready in 2 years, but I'm just on my way to a conference in London where people come from Silicon Valley.
Lovely.
And they probably have it ready before.
So what you're describing is an international network of vocal specialists that meet. You said that, but
not only one.
No, you invited us for the symposium in December, you say?
Yes.
Could you tell me something about what's going to happen then?
Yes. The program is the following. Well, I am a representative in the European Union.
Let me just set this up. So the symposium that we went to last year was arranged by you here in Copenhagen.
Yes, it was the fifth. Yes.
And that was the fifth one.
Yeah.
And we had professors and scientists from Germany, America, Poland, England. There were specialists from everywhere coming here to talk about their research. I found one of the more entertaining bits was the screaming festival in Salzburg. What was that? Jedermann.
There was Schlömiger Tier. Schlömiger Tier is a specialist on the Salzburg festival, and he has made a lot of analysis of screaming in Jedermann.
Yes.
They have
that
4
was hysterical.
angles. Yes, and what happens? What is this screaming? And we don't have an answer yet. What it is.
And I was fascinated because I've never heard of this. And there are men. Are there women too screaming?
No, it's only men, I think.
Only men that stand in the city everywhere and screaming like maniacs.
Yes. Jedermann, because Jedermann is going to hell. The devil is just around the corner. He's also on the scene.
Yeah.
And his good angel wants him to go to heaven.
Yeah.
So the warning is.
But it's like the sound of hell is opening now.
Yeah, whatever you put into it.
That's my impression.
You next person you put into your would be Schlömiger.
Yeah,
in
that would be but he's a physio.
He's an MD like me.
Yes, and he also treats singers.
He's treating all of the world famous singers coming to the Mozart Festival.
Yeah, he must have just like you, lots of very special stories about all these singers that come with an emergency.
Yeah, treated them in the pauses.
Yes,
trying them to come back to the scene.
Yeah. That's one that's and also because your connection to music. What's your favorite composer, by the way? Boulez. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Le Marteau sans maître.
Okay.
And that was my introduction to modern singing. My singing teachers is with Switzerland.
And do you play some music yourself?
Well, this was I came to Copenhagen to study when I was 19. But already before that, I had my repertoire of Müllerlieder and Dichterliebe and Winterreise and some Bach's italienische Konzert and Schumann. I had a repertoire already, so I was extremely familiar with classic singing.
Yes.
So when I was introduced to police, this is new for me. This is fantastic. Yeah. Singing and talking in between, the consciousness of difference between singing and talking. And I still think that police is my favorite. I hear him in Salzburg. And he's a fantastic composer and director. For example, he can show, and he showed in a concert with Wiener Symphony Orchestra, how Bach was in Mahler, was in Boulez, the development of music. And this development is going on. And that is also why, already when I developed all of those aberrations, that I thought the composers must know what is going on and what the possibilities are of the singing voice. And that is why we made this phonetogram, where you have the lowest and the highest intensity at every tone that a person has. And that is why we know that they can go up in storm, like the composer who made this opera Storm, where they go up to high A. Thomas Addes. And he had to import somebody to sing this high A here in Denmark.
Yeah.
But it's possible, we know it's possible. We measure this. So that is one of the options that brought me into this area.
Yeah, and this means that you also have a very intuitive understanding of what questions to ask. You know, there are some questions that you can never ask them until you know something about what's required or what can be done.
Yeah, whether that is intuition or whether that is knowledge, I cannot answer you. But there are some technical approaches that mostly, if you have time and talk with the patient and analyze a little bit, then it is known among doctors that they solve their problems themselves. So I'm just repeating what they are saying and giving them the knowledge that is on the market, repeating what they are saying.
You mean to the patient?
Yes, to the patients. Because that brings me back to this next conference.
Yes, and this is now this December here in Copenhagen.
Yes, neuroscience and voice. There's much more measurement possibility. There are much bigger measurement possibilities on the market now. If you want to know more about motor and sensory control system of voice production.
That means what sets the voice going and what starts it and what keeps it in control.
Yes, in the brain and periphery and in the muscles, also in the vocal muscles. And then you have, of course, the nano aspects, which I just was talking about. And then you have the different places in the brain where things go on, which are measured fluency and reliability of voice production by fMRI. It's used everywhere. These new methods where you can see into the different centers of the brain, and where we have the hypothesis that there are other aspects with measurements of artists.
That means that there's something that I'm trying to understand about the brain and how it works with the voice, where some pedagogic ideas are not working so well unless you, as a teacher, think about the unconscious use of voice. That there is an indirect way.
Or if you can document with MRI or other measurements of the brain that this method is better than that.
Yes.
Then you have some kind of evidence for the future, the singing teachers to grab to it, so that they don't have to start with Aristotle all the time.
Yes.
Which is the case right now.
Yes, that's true. But the thing is also that the body is not changing so much, but the way we talk about culture changes all the time, and that means the words change meaning in a way that makes us.
In culture or tradition of singing, there are some differences. We know that the rhythm of the voice is basically finished at 2 years. If you can hear that the person is from India, or from Japan, or from Sweden, or from France. You have a different melody.
Yes.
And that is sort of fixed in what we thought was some sort of a neuro computer.
Yes.
With zeros and ones.
So that's a kind of culture of voice.
Yeah, that's a basic thing.
Yes.
And that makes it difficult for Danish singers to sing in other languages. It makes it more difficult for them than for other countries where the basic rhythm, the training is more alike. So, for example, Italian and German. For us, even Chinese people have problems when they sing Mozart. They have, but they are luckily nowadays trained from the early childhood in singing, so they're better.
Yes. Well, I mean, when I talk about this language and voice, Richard Miller speaks a lot about in his books about the traditions of Italian and German training. But for me, I don't think it's as important as what you're talking about in terms of basic vocal culture. That an Englishman, for instance, has a lot of diphthongs.
Yeah.
I, you, how, and that trains the tongue to move in a special way compared to, for instance, Italians that have another completely open vowel melody.
Fortunately, the English people made a lot of studies on the differences. And some have more diphthongs, some have more consonants, some have more vocal singing, and Italian does have more vocal singing than consonant singing.
Yes, but also Chinese have a lot of melody in there.
Exactly.
Which is beneficial for singing like Swedish.
Yes.
When you see like that, you train the larynx to move a lot. Not the larynx, but the the whole apparatus is adapting to.
This research is ongoing, but it's cultural history. Because we don't know, we shouldn't focus too much on that in the future.
No?
But the teachers, on the history of the Italian and German and English variations of singing, we should focus much more about training the children early in all of these languages.
Oh yes.
So that they are conscious about how to move their tongues in different ways. Instead of looking backward, I think it's more valuable to look forward. And that comes also in the picture when you have the rock and pop singing.
Yes.
You know, they have their own tradition. They don't care about whether it's Italian or English or German. They are much more focusing on the falsetto with the sounds and not that much talk or not much many words. And that's what I think is very inspiring to focus with them on to have their voice healthy in the whole area that they can sing, so that they can modulate the overtones, which is the other big area, resonance harmonics of the human voice that we're going to talk about, resonance adjustment, visual feedback, modern and classical singing, musical examples, registers, discussion and nomenclature, acoustical feedback, local formats, hotspots of resonance, demystifying voice registration, all of this.
All these things that are happening now, that we're talking about, will be discussed at the forum here in Copenhagen on December 11
and 12.
And 12th, 2 days. 2 days here in Copenhagen at Radisson Blue Falconer Hotel. So contact Mette and sign up for this symposium, because it will be fantastic, I assure you.
It's in cooperation with the European Academy of Phonetics. It's a new academy.
Okay, so finishing off now, because you have we have to taste that as well. But just finishing off. If you would give any advice to a singer, what would that be?
An advice that I never got. Sing what you like and in the way you want. Find the right dialogue with the singing teacher. And if the singing teacher doesn't work with you, find another singing teacher. Be sure that your voice is healthy. If not, find a good doctor.
Good. Yeah, that's very, very important advice, but it really means a lot, and many people forget to think about those things after a while. When you go into an academy, you often follow the rules of the academy or the teacher, and you forget that you yourself are the artist.
Yeah, there's one comment. If you get a role that is not optimal, but where you should sing in a way that you can sing, then take the role.
Right, good. Thank you, Mette. It was lovely of you to give us your time. Okay, that's it.